Hello you, it's me. Today we're going to talk about a short story collection by Arthur C. Clarke, The Wind from the Sun. 18 stories of the future from the colossus of science fiction. He's known for his big series like Rendezvous with Rama, 2001, A Space Odyssey, but like a lot of sci-fi authors, I think it's the case that where they shine, where they let their hair down, where they let themselves be a bit bonkers is in their short stories. There are a couple of different kinds of short story compilation in sci-fi. You have top stories by various authors from a certain time period or from a certain publication. You get stories selected around a central theme, which are my favourite ones, and stories by the same author. And all these collections are good for different reasons. This is the last one. These are all by Arthur C. Clarke. And the reason I think this type of collection is good is that if it's done properly, they're brilliant at showing an audience the range of an author and the breadth of the things they're able to write. This is going to be a very short review. I do still kind of struggle to review short story collections, never really know how to do it. If you have any advice on that, leave it in the comments. I always appreciate feedback. These were all written by Clarke during the 60s, one of the most important decades of scientific leaps ever. You had lasers, genetic codes, probes sent to Mars and Venus, the lunar landings. A lot of the time, for many of the stories in this and in other collections, especially with Clarke and Asimov, he does it too, is almost as if they learn a new scientific advancement or they hear about it, and immediately their brain starts working on a way to slot it into real life to make it commonplace, the social implications it would have, and a human story involving it. I felt like that was the genesis thought process of quite a few stories in here. One thing I didn't know that is really interesting. The titular story, The Wind from the Sun, is about people who race solar-sailed ships to the very edges of the solar system. And they're super expensive. It's an international sport where a whole country will pour its money into developing one ship for the race with the latest tech. And I was looking up when the idea for a solar sail originated, and I was surprised at how early it was. People were thinking about it in the late 1800s. Pyotr Lebedev demonstrated light force. Even before that, Jules Verne was talking about light as a mechanism of motion in space. And I came across a really nice quote in a letter written by Johannes Kepler to Galileo. Provide ships or sails adapted to those heavenly breezes, and there will be some who will brave even that void. One of my favourite short stories in here I'd actually read before. When you read enough short story collections from the same genre and from the same time period, you do start bumping into things you've seen already. This one was really cool though, so I didn't mind. It's the longest story in the collection, and it's called A Meeting with Medusa. It's about this person who's riding a probe down into the lower atmosphere of Jupiter, describing to the reader the creatures living, floating forever, never touching land, like some weird parallel opposite to Earth's deep ocean environments. Creatures using buoyant gas, hunting with static electricity, and us coming face to face with new kinds of intelligence, having to re-examine what sentience means. Talking about the genesis of each story, it feels like some of them, which are quite plot weak, are written as an excuse to include a beautiful scene or an impressively written action sequence. I think you can really tell which bits of the story have the author's passion shining through, probably which bits were written first, and the rest filled in around it. Unfortunately, he does the same with punchlines. Arthur C. Clarke's novels are very serious, but I don't think he's a super serious person. There's a sense of humour in a lot of his shorter stuff, but several of these stories end in a punchline so bad that you read it and you're like, ugh. He writes 3 or 4 page stories building up to a ba-dum-ts moment. So yeah, it was super weird reading that because it's not something I've seen other sci-fi authors do, and it's not something I'd expect from anybody who wasn't Douglas Adams or Brian Aldiss or somebody known for being a bit witty. But yeah, I will always recommend short story collections, but sometimes I think that single author collections, especially older single author collections, can seem a bit monotonous, because while the subject of the stories change and the stories in the stories change, the tone and the character voice often don't change at all. So I really think it's best to come across stories in mixed collections. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars. So thanks for watching. If you like science fiction, please consider joining our Interstellar Book Club. I'll link the Discord down below. It's really good. We read one science fiction book a month, talk about it on a live show. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Goodreads. They'll be linked down below as well. Like and subscribe, hit notifications, say hi in the comments, and I'll see you next time for the next review. Bye!